Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Made in Bartlett, a program dedicated to economic development and things that are going on in Bartlett. We want to thank First South Financial for sponsoring this. They're the underwriters for the Made in Bartlett podcast. We could not do this without them. And we also want to give a shout out to V2 Media, who helps produce this podcast. We're joined today with a very special guest, someone that you may or may not know, but if you don't know him, you've probably been involved in things that he's been involved in, and that's Cary Vaughn. Cary, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Always great to hang out with John Threadgill on an afternoon. Right?
Well, Cary, we're going to have a lot to talk about, but you are an interesting character, no doubt about it, and it's always a pleasure being around you. You're a bit of sunshine, even on a cloudy day like this.
Well, thank you. I'll take that. That's good. I need you to call my in-laws and tell them that.
Well, the in-laws are pretty tough sell. Well, we're gonna chat, and we're gonna talk about Cary's background, because it's pretty broad. Now, for those of you who know Cary, you'll know that he is the CEO of Love Worth Finding, which, Cary, I want to ask you to explain a little bit about that. It's based in Bartlett. It's a syndicated program, faith-based, all over the country, if not internationally.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so
Absolutely.
That is what you're involved in day to day, 9 to 5, but you're also involved in about 30 other things,
Right.
which we want to talk about. But Cary, why don't you, since this is a Bartlett-based company, why don't you share with our viewers what exactly Love Worth Finding is, in case they don't already know?
No, I'll be glad to. I often say we're touching the world from Bartlett, Tennessee.
Yeah.
Headquartered right here. It's hard to believe, almost 40 years. So the ministry started out in 1986 as Word for the World. And then they came back about October of 87, and we changed it to Love Worth Finding. So it is as you stated, a faith-based mass communications organization. What does that mean? Well, we're tied to about 2,500 radio outlets. At one time, we were tapping into about 10,000 TV stations, but we broadcast in 196 countries.
What?
From Bartlett, Tennessee.
196
196 countries.
You mean counties, right?
No. Countries. And so we are connected to several key essential partnerships that allow us to do that. And a few years ago, maybe less than a decade ago, we started making the shift, kind of the turn towards digital media. So now with YouTube and with social media, we are touching a new audience and yet a younger audience. And so we feel like after 40 years of being in the ministry, we're just kind of hitting our stride for the first time. And so Love Worth Finding started out originally as the, lack of a better term, the broadcasting arm of Bellevue Baptist Church, and then pulled away about 35 years ago as a separate entity. And we've been running strong ever since. It's amazing to see the ministry really kind of go into new heights. And so right now we're working on a project, John, called Beyond the Tent. And we're raising money, and our team is working strategically to take the same message into 14 different languages. And with software, we can do that.
Really?
And so we call it Beyond the Tent, because we're expanding our boundaries, right? We're enlarging our tent to hit the areas we've never been there before. And so 14 new languages within the umbrella of Love Worth Finding. So again, as we go into 2026, we feel like it's a new day. We feel like it's an exciting day, and we're just blessed to be a part of it.
Wow, that's amazing. I had no idea you had that's such a reach.
Very, very much so.
Oh, wow. So do you get to travel all those countries, Cary?
No, but I do travel the U.S. because our number one state, as far as people that support the ministry, are what we call our partners, our contributors to the ministry. Texas is probably one of our number one states. And then I would say California and Florida. And then we have this heartbeat in the Mid-South because of our location. People in the Mid-South just resonate with what we do and how we do it. And so I spend a lot of my time working with our board of directors, but also raising money.
Yeah.
I often say the gospel message is free, but media is not.
Yeah, that's right. Good point. And you don't have advertisements in your media thing.
Right.
Well, explain to the viewers, those who are not familiar with it, what exactly is it? Is it sermons?
It is. It's the preaching ministry of Dr. Adrian Rogers, who was pastor at Bellevue for about 33 years. He was president of the Southern Baptist Convention 3 different times, and many would consider him America's pastor. He was such a statesman and just a great pulpiteer, and we have the joy of taking that same message through, again, radio, TV, podcast, the app, the website, social media, digital media, books, periodicals, you name it. We get all that out, right? And it's amazing. We actually, John, have a vault. We call it from the vault, or out of the vault is the term. But we have a vault at the headquarters. And in that vault are probably roughly 25 to 3,000 messages that have not been digitized. And so when people ask me, well, how long can you go? We can go forever.
Oh, really?
We can go forever.
Well, I'm just curious, the countries that you're in, I mean, how do you get into those markets? I mean, do you pursue people that you think would be interested in carrying this? It's all radio or YouTube. It's YouTube too, right?
Yeah, it's all of that. It's kind of what you talked about in your segment week after week. It's all about, even with economic development, it's all about relationships and partnerships. And that's how we do it in our business. We have partnerships with Trans World Radio. We have partnerships with Bot Radio out of Kansas City. We have great rapport with people like Salem Radio and just Crawford Broadcasting and all these different entities that come together with us that allow us to really just touch all those parts of the globe with the great news. And so we get there by people.
Do you get feedback from these people?
We do. We do. Ironically, we receive about 1,000 prayer requests per month. Even though we're a broadcast or mass communications ministry, we receive about 1,000 prayer requests. People just say, hey, I have this need. I have this hurt. Would you pray for me? And we do. I mean, we don't take that lightly. And so we follow up and follow through. The staff will pray. The board will pray. Some of our volunteers will come in and help. But it's amazing. Truly amazing. All in Bartlett, Tennessee.
Huh. Well, do you have a studio?
I have a studio there. Yeah, we have a studio just like this, a beautiful studio. And we have radio suites. So we do a lot of the intro, outflow there in the studio. We record some things. We slice and dice it. And then we get it out to the partners to distribute.
Yeah. Well, now, Dr. Rogers, he's been passed away for quite some time.
Yes, he's been in heaven 20 years of the 40 years.
20 years?
20 years.
I didn't know it'd been that long. Mm-hmm. So some of the younger people may not consider this very contemporary, going back 20 years. So, I mean, are you doing something that keeps it current? I mean, that people can say, oh, yeah, this, I can relate to that or whatever.
Yes and no. So to keep it current would be the things I've described as far as new media outlets, right? But real truth never changes.
Well, that's true. That's true.
Right? So real truth never changes, and we understand that. And we also realize that that it's profound truth simply stated. And so as long as we stay true to the integrity of the ministry, we can take the same truth of the Word of God and get it out through all these different outlets. So yes, we're going to be creative on how we get it out, but we never change. It's the truth, nothing but the truth. So help us God.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think God has honored that, and we've seen really His favor on some of that for 40 years. Good.
Well, Cary, our relationship goes back before your time with Love Worth Finding. And I've known you for, I don't know, 20 more years.
Oh, yeah, maybe 25, 30 years. Yeah. I've been CEO for 15 years at Love Worth Finding. So, yeah, maybe 30 years.
Yeah. So our paths crossed because of our involvement in economic development. And I want you to give the folks a little background, because let me tell you, Cary, he's been around the block, and he knows a lot of people, and he can get things done. So, Cary, okay, so when you got out of college, you got a job with a outfit based here in Memphis that was helping people that found people jobs. I don't know if you'd call it an employment agency or what.
My undergrad was at Lambeth University up in Jackson, Tennessee. I met my wife there. She was Miss Lambeth, and I chased her around for about a year. She finally allowed me to catch her, and so I found her, received my degree. We moved back to Memphis, Tennessee, and through the career development office of Lambeth, I found this firm. So I graduated in May and went right to work for this firm in August here in Memphis, Tennessee, as a 23-year-old, wet behind the ears, knew nothing, right? And I stayed with that specific firm for about 10 years, about a decade, and learned how to recruit and how to staff, and all about job creation. And we were headquartered in Memphis, Tennessee, but we had state contracts that were probably $120 million in state contracts. The state of Kentucky and Frankfort was about $14 million in revenue. The state of Tennessee back in those days was probably about $10 million in revenue. And then we had this private sector side of $30 million of the FedExes and the IPs and the Memphis Light Gas and Waters and those type of entities. Well, my job was a corporate recruiter. And I staffed IT and engineers in all those opportunities, specifically for the state of Kentucky. I was the corporate recruiter for the state of Kentucky.
Really?
And cut my teeth on all of that. Well, John, that led into me understanding we're all in the people business.
Right.
Right? I mean, you may say, well, my service is this or my product is that. But at the end of the day, every single one of us, whether it's ministry, whether it's economic development, whether it's local business, we're all in the people business.
Yep.
And I learned that early on. And so we started to build relationships and started to cultivate opportunities across the nation. And that led into more of an economic development spin for me. And I ended up, after that, going into the chamber world, which also led into going to work for the state of Tennessee. I had staff for the state of Tennessee. I was one of their primary vendors on the IT side. And I had staff for the state of Tennessee for years, but I went to work for, at that time, Commissioner Bill Haggerty. And he was looking for people across the state that had worked in some type of job creation. And he and I met, and he hired me to be somewhat of the West Tennessee guy, Southwest Tennessee. And little did I know, but Ford Blue Oval was going to be in my district. And I can remember he and I walking the 4,100 acres of Ford Blue Oval years ago before anything was built out there.
Right.
As a matter of fact, this is something real funny. We were driving in a state vehicle over the 4,100 acres, thinking about and kind of wondering what industry could we recruit to West Tennessee. Again, way before Ford, way before SK Battery.
Now, the state had already optioned that property? They'd already bought it?
They'd already bought that property. And there were some talks about prospecting and who was in the pipeline and all that. And we were driving across that beautiful, what I consider hunting area, basically.
Oh, yeah.
And we hit a deer.
I was just thinking deer.
Yeah, hit a deer. It was November, hit a deer in the state vehicle. And Commissioner Haggerty looked at me and said, well, what do we do now? And I said, well, we field dress it. That's what we do. and then, soon after that, of course, that area began to blossom. Ford began to have some talks about coming. And now look at where we are today. Looks like it's going to be a spot to develop gas trucks.
Yes. That in fact, for those who are watching, this podcast is being taped right after Ford announced a kind of a change in production over there. And they're not going to go the EV route as much as they are the gas, which I think we all suspected that was going to happen.
And I think it's going to be even more of an asset and benefit for places like Bartlett, even more so.
Yeah.
Even more so. More vendors will come, more suppliers will come, and Bartlett can play a key role in all of that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned Haggerty. Well, for those who are watching, they may not realize that Commissioner Haggerty is now Senator Haggerty.
He's a U.S. Senator. And look, before that, he went from Commissioner Haggerty. I was with him the other day and I made this statement. He went from Commissioner Haggerty to really being the chair of Trump, Tennessee for the first administration. And then he was asked to stay and help pick the first cabinet. And part of that selection process was he became the ambassador to Japan.
Yep.
Because he had lived in Japan in the early 80s or the mid 80s and was a hedge fund investor, very successful, very prominent, learned to speak the language. And he was a great ambassador for Japan representing the U.S. And then I guess around November of 2020, after Lamar Alexander had retired, Ambassador Haggerty became Senator Haggerty. And he's been in that role since November of 2020.
Well, as I open this podcast talking about all the different things that you've been involved in, Cary, politics is one of the things that is close to you. And I see you as someone, even though you're affiliated with a particular party, I see you as someone who's always looked at the bigger picture and want to pursue the common good. And I know you have a tight relationship with Haggerty and also with Marshall Blackburn. But can you share with us from an economic development perspective now, because economic development cannot happen without politics, folks. I mean, it's just plain and simple. I mean, you've got to have the infrastructure in place, and that usually requires public funding and that type of thing. So economic development and politics is pretty tied closely together. And you've been on both sides of that fence. As you're saying, you work for the state of Tennessee, but you did that as a employee of the state.
Yes.
And in a recruiting industry and all that. But then there's the political side of it, and the politicians like a Haggerty and those type guys. Now, of course, he was commissioner. He was an employee of the state. But then he becomes a senator.
Yes.
And so he has a lot more weight in a lot of ways to make things happen. So you want to kind of give a perspective on that?
Well, absolutely. And I think, I have a lot of respect for Senator Haggerty and Senator Blackburn because they have produced jobs. They understand what it takes to bring opportunities to the state of Tennessee, what it means to bring opportunities to West Tennessee, and how important that is for Bartlett and other communities. And so my hat is off to them because, as you know, John, many times in a room, people talk about economic development, but you have to have the state, you have to have TVA, you have to have the local mayors, you have to have the local chambers. It takes a village
it does.
To create jobs. This is not a maverick solo role, right? It takes a party, it takes a full entity to produce the right type of jobs for a place like Bartlett, Tennessee. And when I've worked with Haggerty and Marcia, they fully understand that, but they also understand this. Getting jobs here is just the first part, right? It's also all about workforce. And that goes back to my background. And so I was in a meeting with some of the people we've mentioned up in Jackson, Tennessee years ago. And I can remember this conversation well. It was with Toyota Bodine. And I was sitting in the back. There's about 25 of us in the room. And the question was, what does the state of Tennessee need to do to help Toyota Bodine produce more jobs? This rural country general manager said, I've got all kinds of jobs. I've got plenty of jobs. What I need are people to show up Monday through Friday, on time, ready to work, pass a drug test, and do simple arithmetic on a clipboard. You help me solve those three problems, and I'll give you more jobs. And that's when the light bulb went off to say, okay, it's almost like a quarterback and a receiver working together for the 6 points. We have to put a focus on a viable, educated workforce across Tennessee. Well, our senators understand that, right? Bartlett, Tennessee understands that because we have a beautiful TCAT. We have a high school that graduates 600 students every single year.
Yeah.
And they can go on the Tennessee pathways. They can go to TCAT. They can go to Southwest right here, close to Bartlett, Tennessee. They can go to the University of Memphis. They can go over to Moore Tech, which is an apprenticeship program, and they can come out on the other side making about $75,000 to $80,000 annually a year with no debt. Those opportunities are available, and guess what, John? They can stay right here.
Yeah.
They can stay right here and make us proud, not go away and make us proud, but stay in Bartlett, Tennessee and make us proud. Those opportunities are here, but it takes everybody working together, our senators, our utility divisions, the hospitals, the municipalities, the chambers, everybody to say we're going to jockey for the best jobs and we're going to jockey to keep the best talent.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Couldn't have been said better. So, given now you're a native of Shelby County.
Absolutely.
Grew up in the rural area of
Grew
Shelby.
up in north part, kind of northwest part of Shelby County, between really outside of Millington and a little bedroom community called Rosemark. Rosemark, Berryville. I went to Rosemark Academy.
And you're still out there,
I'm still out there. Bought 5 acres after college, and we've raised our family out there. It's been great.
Yeah. So, I was doing a little research here recently, Cary, and Shelby County, a lot of folks call Shelby County Big Shelby because it is the largest county in area. There's no county as large as Shelby County in Tennessee. And there's no county with more people than Shelby County. But what's unique about Shelby County is that we still have a lot of developable land, a lot of land. Mm-hmm. Anyone who drives around the 385 corridor, you would not have the idea that you're, within 15 miles of downtown Memphis or whatever, 20 miles of downtown Memphis. I mean, it looks like you're far away from any metropolitan area. So Shelby County is very unique in that it has the opportunity to continue to grow as opposed to like Davidson County, which is pretty much landlocked.
It is.
You could say Hamilton County is the same way, Knox County, but Shelby County has the opportunity to continue growing, both residentially and commercially. So any inputs,
I think that's a great, maybe we throw that out as a challenge to the audience to say, if you have some time, right, start at 385 and Highway 51. That's right in Millington. Start at 51 and 385 and drive towards Holly Springs, Mississippi. And what they'll see on that 385, what I call the back way of 385, is you see all this property.
Yeah.
To your left and to your right. And then you come right through the Bartlett, then you come through the Arlingtons and the Lakelands, and you get up by the Cary Vaughn. The point is, if economic development is going to happen, it's going to happen in the rural areas of Shelby County.
Right.
You can drive that 385 all the way to Holly Springs, all the way to Oxford, Mississippi, and it's nothing but land.
Yeah.
I think that is the golden nugget for us. I truly believe that.
Yeah. Now, as we talked in a previous podcast with Mayor Parsons, infrastructure is key.
It is.
And along that whole 385 corridor, you won't find hardly any sewer lines, water lines, power lines, or any of that. So a lot of work has to be done.
A lot of work has to be done.
And economic development, infrastructure is the fundamental, is it not?
It is.
The workforce.
It is. But can you imagine? So, we've already mentioned Ford Blue Oval, SK Battery, right? The talk of the town was 7,000 jobs initially, and then over time, 30 to 35,000 jobs. Okay, let's just say that's true, and then we go up the road, and we have the Milan Arsenal. If we can get the Milan Arsenal in Gibson County back active, and then we go up the road a little bit further, and we can get the Port of Cates and Lake County active. All of a sudden, West Tennessee with the 21 counties, Shelby being the largest. Right?
Yep.
Because when I was growing up, on the license plate, you had the number 1. You had 1 dash. And
That's right.
And the 1 stood for Shelby County was the largest county.
That's right. That's exactly right.
But can you imagine if you had Bartlett humming with the medical device and all that we have and all that you've talked about, then you've got Blue Oval, then you've got Milan Arsenal, then you got Port of Cates. All of a sudden, West Tennessee becomes like East Tennessee.
Yeah.
From an economic standpoint, right? And from a job standpoint.
Well, it's interesting you should mention Milan Arsenal because that just became available about a year ago.
That's right.
And I'm from Milan, Tennessee originally. So I know all about the Milan Arsenal. In fact, I'll just tell you a little story real quick. When I was a little kid, our property that we had about 7 acres and it adjoined the Milan Arsenal. Now, I'm going to show my age a little bit, but Milan Arsenal, made bombs back during the war, right? Yeah. World War II. Well, after the war, they had a lot of surplus bombs, so they didn't know what to do with them. So they would explode them every Tuesday and Thursday. They had these big pits and they would blow up these bombs so we could play Army out there and really have the sound effects. Anyway, that's a little
But no casualties, right?
No casualties. Not that I'm aware of. But anyway, that's a huge site, though. That's interesting. You should bring that up because I didn't even know they closed it down until I was doing a little research.
I think there's some opportunity there, and obviously the state has to play a part in all this. But just think about that. Because we've always said sometimes we feel like that West Tennessee is forgotten, or sometimes we believe that we have a lot to offer, but they forget about us when you cross the Tennessee River.
Yeah.
Right, true?
Yeah.
But if all these things are hitting on all cylinders and we're clicking, boy, that provides a lot of growth for many municipalities across West Tennessee.
Yep, absolutely. Yep. Well, it's been very enjoyable talking to you, Cary, and I know we could go on forever and ever, but talk about all kinds of things. But is there anything you want to leave the audience with, any insights, any words of wisdom, anything, but either doesn't have to do with economic development, it can be with whatever you want to talk about. But
I think let's end it the way we started it. Let's talk about Bartlett. Years ago, probably 15 years ago, I had a lunch. You were probably there. I invited, I think you and some of the aldermen, and at that time it was Mayor Keith McDonald. Keith McDonald was the mayor. And I remember him sitting in our boardroom, and he looked at me and said, "Your organization is doing all of this in Bartlett or from Bartlett?" And I said, "Yes, we are. We are touching all these different countries from 2941 Cape Bon, right?" And I think the same is true, John, is that when you look at Bartlett, I think even what the mayor said the other day, I think when you look at all the amenities and everything from the Medical Device Society to the high school to the local businesses, and I'm assuming Bartlett's probably the 9th or 10th largest city in the state of Tennessee.
Well, it slipped a little bit because some others jumped ahead on us.
But
Spring
still,
Hill, for an example.
Spring Hill would probably take some of the lead, but still, you're up there in the top 10 or top 15. To whom much is given, much is required.
Yeah.
And I just think Bartlett is primed, positioned to be a catalyst in all these things we've talked about for West Tennessee, especially the Blue Oval. I really believe that. And so the chamber plays a role in that, and the city of Bartlett plays a key role in all that. So. And
the important part is that Bartlett still has room to grow. There's still plenty of land in Bartlett. So we're not a landlocked community like some others here in Shelby County and a lot of cities across the state. Bartlett is uniquely situated to continue to grow.
Absolutely.
So we just need to do it smartly.
Yeah, we do. We do effectively and efficiently. It's been my joy today. Good to catch up.
Well, thank you for coming, Cary. It's always a pleasure, buddy.
Absolutely.
Okay,
thank you.
Man. Thank you all for watching. This has been another episode of Made in Bartlett, brought to you by First South Financial, who underwrites this program. And thank you to V2 Media for the production of it. And we'll see you next time.